Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to stay updated with all our latest content. Join us and never miss out on the excitement. Carl Hoffman gives Karen Brodeen a drugged drink at a children's play area. When she wakes, she is tied to a medical-style table, and Carl proceeds to inflict various specific injuries on her. Later, she is dumped in her own vehicle, and Carl calls 911 as he walks away. Tom tells Liz that he has a job interview in Lincoln, Nebraska, that day. They decide to talk about their ongoing relationship when he arrives back that evening. When Liz learns of the attack on Karen, she asks Harold Cooper to assign her to the case, since she had pursued the attacker during her time in New York. She also believes that because this case is important to her, that Red may contact her with assistance. Cooper conditionally approves, depending on the results of her debriefing about the attack on the post office. The entire team is interrogated or questioned about the raid, with the questioning being observed by Cooper and Diane Fowler. Liz and Ressler go to meet with Karen's husband and son, where her body is identified. Raymond views Luli Zhang's body and has a flashback of her death. He tells Newton Phillips to ensure that he can disperse the ashes, stating that he wants it done properly. Red then tracks down and interrogates the associate of the apple-eating man who was watching the Keene house, the paramedic who removed the chip from his neck, and the doctor who drugged him prior to Alan Fitch questioning him and monitored his vitals. After interrogating them, he kills them and disposes of them in public areas. Red he advises Liz to focus on the victims' families, since he does not know about serial killers, but does know about torture. Back at the post office, Liz checks the records and realizes that all of the injuries inflicted on Karen Brodeen had been suffered by her son. When she shares this with Ressler and Mira, Cooper learns of Liz's communication with Red. Ressler decides that they need to interview Karen's son. Cooper pulls Mira aside and tells her that she has been cleared by the investigative team. Red pursues the financier behind the post office raid, discovering Henry Kruger's involvement. Based off of how the accomplices he'd interrogated were paid small $5 and $10 bills rather than clean, larger bills, he deduces a nightclub owner called Fyodor had paid them. After confronting him in a restaurant and eliminating his security, he interrogates and kills Fyodor after learning that the money was wired from a financier in the New York branch of Gestalt and Landesbank, Henry Kruger. Ressler and Liz question Michael, Karen's son, and he tells them that his injuries were caused by his mother. Red confronts Henry in front of his home and demands his wire transfer records for Anslo Garrick's operation. Henry asks for time, and Red tells him he will be talking to him the next day. Mira shows Cooper a money trail report that names Louis Coogan as the mole. The picture, however, is of Aram. When the FBI SWAT team storm Aram's residence, they find it deserted. Aram is brought hooded into a room, where the hood is removed and Red is sitting opposite him. Red tells Aram to steal $5,000 from an account and place it in one of his accounts. Red tells him to make the theft untraceable, and that if he has not completed the task by the time Red has stripped, cleaned, and reassembled his gun, he will shoot him. Aram completes the task, then explains to Red how it was done. Red tells him that he is innocent when Aram asks what Red means. Red explains that a payment for the raid on the post office was made to a Louis Coogan, an alias for Aram. Red says that Aram is too intelligent to have accepted payment in such an easily traceable form, so he will find someone else and kill them. Carl attends a support group for abusers and their victims and talks to George, the abusive husband of Melissa, a woman he treated earlier in his job as a nurse in an emergency room. Red returns to see Henry, and this time shoots him in the leg and threatens to have him killed in Papua New Guinea. Unless he tells him who really was paid for the attack on the post office, Henry tells Red the name Newton Phillips, and Red leaves Henry's home. Carl has captured George and strapped him to his medical table, where he forces his mother, who abused him as a child, to watch as he starts to torture George. Liz briefs the team on her findings about the Good Samaritan, how all the victims had the same injuries as members of their families, and that the only link is that Carl Hoffman was the attending nurse. Liz and Ressler check Carl's latest place of work, where they discover that Melissa is the only person treated by Carl recently who is being abused. When they question Melissa, they learn that her husband George is attending a support group. They question the group facilitator and learn that Carl and George left together. Liz and Wrestler go to Carl's childhood home, where Liz discovers Carl about to give George a concussion. She orders him to stop, and when he goes to attack his mother, she shoots him dead. Liz visits George in hospital, and with Melissa listening, tells him that if he touches Melissa again, she will finish what Carl started. Aram returns to the post office with the proof of his innocence supplied by Red. Red spreads Luli's ashes into a lake, then turns to Newton Phillips and asks why he betrayed him. Newton Phillips says that they threatened his family and asks Red to look after his family. He also asks Red to make it look like an accident. Red suffocates Newton Phillips using a plastic bag. Fowler meets with Fitch and refuses to give him the name of the mole responsible for the attack on the post office, merely saying that the mole has been neutralized. At her home, Liz thinks Tom has come home and tells him she is not ready to have another fight with him about moving to Nebraska. To her surprise, the visitor is Red, and he tells her that there is still a mole in the FBI, as the leak in his organization did not have the required level of knowledge to plan the raid. He says he has brought her the next name on the blacklist. See you in the next video.